thought the science of the ancients lost, or at least unattainable, but it has survived, despite the aeons, as if fixed in stone. The secret of the gods.
It's long been whispered that a hidden wisdom of a different order is veiled in the ancient mystery traditions. Their riddles are designed to goad and allure the initiate into adepthood by the use and promise of a mythical or mystical reward.
At the end of an arduous spiritual quest is found the likes of the Philosopher's Stone of Alchemy, the Fruit of the Tree of Life, and the famed Holy Grail. We might say the same of the quests to reveal the mysteries of Göbekli Tepe, Stonehenge, and the Great Pyramid.
Here, I present an underlying element that unites all of these myths and mysteries. It might even be the quest prize itself, so I increasingly believe on the weight of evidence I'm about to present, and on the fact I'm pretty sure I don't have acute pareidolia. We're told that to the ancients, religion, science and art were all one and the same. Well, I found this secret science in religious artworks the world over by the likes of Leonardo da Vinci, the builders of the cathedrals, the bag-carrying priests of Sumeria, and all since a time so long ago that the thought of it's become quite vertiginous.
There is a geometric template underlying the esoteric masterworks. For now, I'll call it the pattern, as does the god of magic Hermes in the renowned alchemical text, the Emerald Tablet, which is said to contain the formula for the Philosopher's Stone. This diagram is the pattern. It's a seemingly complex matrix of lines based on simple geometry that has some amazing properties. It can be drawn quite easily with a square and compass. When applied to specific sacred hieroglyphs and sacred architecture, it reveals a highly fractal correlation to the angles and the measures inside it. Parts of this formula will be familiar to many, having been revealed to modernity by the hard work of others like John Michel, whose New Jerusalem diagram corresponds in several ways to the pattern. Construction. There is no difficult maths or geometry here. Put simply, the pattern is a 14-sided shape with all of its corners joined. Yet even in the building of this simple structure, cosmic mysteries are unveiled. A simplified explanation of the construction begins with the drawing of a vesica piscis, which appears in religious art everywhere and is more recently known as part of the flower of life geometry, and it's formed by two intersecting circles. From this, a golden triangle can be drawn. This image overlays the internal plan of the Great Pyramid with the golden triangle, showing their coincidence.
There's another ancient geometer's riddle solved here, namely the squaring of the circle, whereby a circle and a square with the same perimeter and circumference can be drawn with the geometry that we've already achieved.
This feat is achieved by drawing a square of 11 by 11 units, 11, around the vesica circles. A vertical line of 7 units, 711, is then drawn from dead centre. This is a peak of another golden triangle. From this peak, a large circle is drawn, followed by a third, which has a radius measured from the tip of the pyramid triangle to the top side of the square. This 22 by 7 gives the approximate of pi, 22/7 that the ancients used in their many crafts. When the squaring of the circle is completed, the two vertically stacked circles of the diagram cosmically correlate to the dimensions of the moon and the earth. This is produced by scaling the image by the noted mystical number 720, producing a harmony of spheres. Utilising the squared circle, a heptagon of 7 sides is made, which uncoincidentally contains the same geometry as the Great Pyramid, generating side angles of 51.8 degrees to the Great Pyramid's 51.5 degrees. It should be noted that the drafting of the perfect heptagon with square and circle is considered impossible. The iconic magician's pentagram is a pentagon joined by an imploding intersection of lines. Similarly, a heptagram is an inverted skeletal heptagon. There are 2 variations of the heptagram in the image, acute and obtuse. One's fat, one's thin. Both are combined along with a standard 7-sided heptagon to enclose them. This is achieved by using the smaller golden pyramid at the heart of the diagram as a base for drawing the rest of the heptagram lines. This cunning trick overcomes the impossibility of drawing a heptagram. A second, inverted copy of the heptagram is placed so that the inversion completes the symmetry. The vesica almond seed shape has grown into something that looks like a tree. Now we're going to discover its golden fruits of knowledge. This is an Assyrian tree of life, circa 1000 BCE, which contains the tree-like geometry I've discovered in the pattern. Knowledge of the apple. The sacred toroidal geometries of the Vesica Piscis spawn pattern generate several special ratios named the metal means, the most important of these being gold. Indeed, the golden ratio is the most highly guarded gnosis of the ancient mysteries and central to the mystery of the pattern. The golden ratio appears in a great many of nature's wonders, from the arc of spiral galaxies to the spin of hurricanes, from the length, breadth and helix of DNA to the fractions of the human body. The nodes of our limbs grow in this perfect proportion, which allows scalable growth without distortion. This is also known as fractal hologrammatic or dynamic symmetry. This supreme fact of nature was seen by the likes of Plato as primary to, and thus a more powerful metaphysical concept than number, which formed the basis of their philosophy. The golden section or cut is a ratio of 1 to 1.618. As these contain irrational numbers, they're not representable by whole number fractions, and without the aid of modern calculators, all proof of the ancients' mathematical ability is in their geometry, as demonstrated in this image of Hermes, the patron of alchemy. The encoded references to many alchemical images of the sun and the moon can be measured and found to be golden ratio, where the moon is the lesser and the sun is the greater part. Here too, Hermes has been drawn with the Philosopher's Stone pattern template. The presence of the golden ratio betrays an even deeper knowledge secreted within these hieroglyphs. There's another metal mean for the canny alchemist to transmute here. This special heptagram occults between its many intersecting lines the golden trisection, which has the powers of the golden section but in the modality of a trinity. It scales fractally through 3 dimensions. This pattern is so very fractal that whatever dimension it's moved through, or position it occupies, or scale at which it appears, it matches itself organically at fractal nodal intervals. Indeed, sacred geometry is often called organic geometry. Magical measure.
The pattern is actually self-referencing. You play about with the 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean triangles and suddenly you've got these cosmic correlations. Possibly this pattern was the base template for what the ancient metrologists were using to generate their units and ratios.
This numeric canon manifests as the golden section in the human body. An L, for example, is the idealized measure of a wrist to an elbow, and a cubit is the length of the elbow to the fingertips. The scalability of the special Pythagorean golden triangles allows for easy trigonometry and thus easy calculation of lengths and areas thanks to the Pythagorean theorem. These special triangles then scale up to produce sacred numbers within the diagram. For example, multiplying the measures as given by the Pythagorean triangles by 720, that mystical number, generates 1080, the moon radius in miles, 3960, which is the earth radius in miles, and then amazingly adding these two together gives the superior composite number of 5040, which not only led the Babylonians to produce their sexagesimal system, but also led us to produce our modern clock. With this, we have a coincidence of 7, the heptagon, within 12 divisions of a circle, reminding us of the musical scales, one of several sonic connections to the pattern, hinting at the ancient concept of the cosmos as sound and its movements as dancing melody.
All speculations aside, Only pattern recognition is necessary to verify whether it's there or not. Either the pattern fits or it doesn't.
What is most important is that the nodes of the pattern are decided by the intersectional crossings between the two heptagrams. To the uninitiated, the lines might look randomly selected, but comparing art that contains the pattern quickly shows consistent matching angles and ratios. Various intervals give the metal mean ratios, which adaptively change and shift depending on plane and position. Suffice it to say, it's a simple game of connect the dots. It may not fit over the average Batman panel, but the potential for an image to contain the pattern is easy to spot once the mind's seen it a few times. There's also typical icons, pillars, pyramids, pythons and groups, magicians, masons, majesties associated with it, which can help guide an alignment swiftly. In future, I'll try to show only the important parts of the template so as not to confuse. Here, however, is the whole template over a Masonic cipher of the pattern. The extra vertical lines in blue show how it is the crossing intersections of the two special heptagrams, highlighted by the red dots, that provide the magical measures. This is a Masonic tracing board from probably in the 1800s. Despite the difference in iconography, geography and chronology, the underlying geometry never changes between the works, as if fixed and hidden in stone for the sole view of philosophers. This is the Sumerian version of the stone handbag stroke Masonic arch. Its overall shape and measures are perfectly aligned despite their separation of thousands of years.
I've received no initiation into, nor have any want to join any underground group, aside from a membership to a ninja clan, but that's for another video. My discovery of this came from an artistic predilection and some very highly synchronous events that led me to Sheila a Gig, which is a depiction of the goddess in ancient medieval architecture in Britain.
Sheila's open sex showed me vulvic vesica geometry hidden in her internal reproductive workings, a fractal image suggestive of the squared circle. In a series of epiphanies, I correlated her to that mysterious stone handbag carried by the hierophants of Sumerian depiction, and from there came a startling coincidental recollection of both bag and goddess together at the magnificent and immensely ancient 12,000-year-old Göbekli Tepe. This is the goddess at Göbekli Tepe, 10,000 years before the Common Era. The impossible was proven by repetition. A leap of logic had provided the key of 7 extrapolated from the angle of the pyramid inside the squared circle. The intersecting heptagons aligned, and so communicated the message of this most mysterious symbol of the wisdom keepers. By their own wizardry, presto, the knowledge being handed over is the bag, the divine source of wisdom. The bag is an accurate container, a method of measure beautifully crafted from sacred fractal geometry derived from the music of the cosmos itself. To have an accurate measure in all things is surely the paramount tool of civilization, science, religion and art all bound into one. The geometric matrix presented here being the fundamental basis of all three. At Göbekli Tepe, this template for divine measure is apparent at the scale of both individual icon as well as the entire pillar. We might extrapolate that it was used in the entire plan. As above, so below.
The occulting artists chose to hide their secrets on several levels. First number and ratio, then the geometry, then the iconography, and then the myth and story that binds them all together. And all of these are reliant on their inherent archetypal meaning to be able to communicate the information that lies within. By the end, we'll see that not only do the bag, the bowl, the stone and the cup share the same geometry, but also the same archetypal meaning and knowledge despite their apparent differences.
the extension. An obvious sidestep of logic led to the Great Pyramid. The intersection of the heptagonal lines this time outlines the measurements of construction. Their angles define the internal passages. In order to generate the Queen's shaft angles, the pattern can be taken a stage further, joining all 14 corners of the two special heptagrams to ascertain an even higher resolution of detail. Now we have correlating angles of the Great Pyramid and the pattern, they're easily compared. The pyramid's outer slope is 52 degrees, the pattern is 52 degrees. The Queen's shaft angle, 40 degrees, the pattern, 40 degrees. Grand Gallery and entrance passage are at 26 degrees and the pattern is at 26 degrees. The only significant angles which aren't present in the pattern are those of the two shafts from the King's Chamber, which are specifically angled at target stars.
When I think of pyramids, I naturally then think of Stonehenges. So I cast a template over Stonehenge, and amazingly, those heptagram crisscrossings line up and give the actual angles and position of the stones at Stonehenge.
As with the pyramid, the angles give an easy map of the correlations. The horseshoe sarsen stones, as well as the dolerite horseshoe blue stones, have the same angle as the obtuse heptagrams of 77 degrees. The small blue stones towards the top of the horseshoe share the 52 degrees of the heptagram pyramid and obviously the 52 degrees of the Great Pyramid. The pattern is found in many esoteric artworks throughout the ages, in Sumerian carvings, from the Visconti Tarocchi in Italy, and Egyptian hieroglyphs.
While some are clearly masters of the pattern, others are clearly initiates, and they produce slim, gangly, awkward looking alien creatures stretched to fit the actual proportions of the pattern. These are both ancient and widespread and prompt the question as to the true antiquity of this information. Initially, I'd seen Göbekli Tepe as a handover of this antediluvian high knowledge by these surviving priestly wizards. But I think I was wrong. I think this information comes from a lot further back. I cast a template over an image of a bull from Altamira Caves in Spain, and then over another. And when I saw it fit, I looked at the dates, which are 35,000 BCE.
You'll notice how many angles match. The buttocks, the horn, the rump, the belly. The questions posed by this are profound and beyond the scope of this video. However, here I'm able to unveil at least one more mystery. The more inclined will be aware of my hinting on several occasions that this pattern is the famous Philosopher's Stone of Hermes, thrice great, patron of alchemy. There is a famous alchemical adage to help the initiate find gnosis, or the truth within the stone. Visit the interior of the earth and by rectifying find the hidden stone. It appears in Latin on this alchemical diagram, as does the Holy Grail, having the sun and moon poured into it, which, as we've seen before, are the two ratios of the golden section. The pattern lies within. The central blue triangle with a square and circle at its centre in this image is an icon or placeholder for the Philosopher's Stone that you might be familiar with. This symbol of the geometric Philosopher's Stone is in fact a secondary product of the pattern, used in a way so as to only give a hint as to the tree that it fruited from. As before, an intersection within the heptagram is selected and a triangle is drawn, utilising the top of the pyramid and the outer circle as its limits.
So, we've unravelled this riddle by visiting the interior of the earth, by rectifying or purifying its matrix, that which is its form and structure. The Masons recount this same myth in the Solomonic keystone, which fits this geometry perfectly.
Once again, the geometry of this shape correlates with the measures of the earth. it is noted that the Masonic keystone encodes the 23.5 degrees of the Earth's axial tilt. Hermes may have more alchemical gifts to give. One of this god of translation's mythical attributes is a magical tortoise shell lyre of 7 notes, the shell exhibiting both unusual geometry and excellent sound. Indeed, Pythagoras' method of tuning the lyre seems to be present in the ratios of the pattern. However, this is a revelation for the future. The combination of geometric form, sound and measure, which seems to be the basis of this secret science, can be seen condensed in the Neolithic Gavrinis megaliths, which depict the measures of the ancient metrologists and echo the motif of the turtle shell. It should be noted that the inscriptions on the stones are viewed by some as depicted the swirls of hallucinatory vision and or the resonant sound frequencies of the human brain, due to the fact that standing sound waves felt to have some effect on the consciousness of a person can be visually measured by its effects in sand and then transferred to the rock. These cosmically derived measures, which are formulated within the matrix of the pattern, indicate the theory of the music of the spheres, for the fact that it generates the ratios of the moon and the earth, as well as its axial tilt, pi, and the very special organic geometry of the golden trisection. This idea of a sacred structure, that which the naked birthing goddess gives form to, is condensed and repeated in the semiotics of bag, bull, stone, tree, and shell tortoise. All of these symbols, as disparate as they seem, conform to the same fundamental archetypal structure of a sacred container, or a matrix, or a holy cup. Further still, it seems implied by the sacred iconography and the preciousness of the secret that this template was seen as the fundamental structure of the universe, an ancient geometric unification theory. Symbolically, it is the internal reproductive organ of the goddess, as she's unabashedly shown us. This is her knowledge. Da Vinci called her Mona Lisa. It lies behind her smile. You can see how the new triangles generated by crossing those heptagram intersections gives the outline of the eye, the iris, the nose, the mouth, the lip, the chin, the neck. And if you zoom out, we can see from the hand to the layers of the background, each is decided by the intersections of this pattern.
This secret science is still something of an enigma to me. Its uses fascinate me. Its history and origins are a puzzle that are going to take years yet to solve.
According to my understanding so far, the matrix of the pattern orders that which it affects into a beauteous, dynamic symmetry. Utilised, its powers allow for the construction of forms which resonate with the harmonic fundamentals of the universe. Wherever the matrix of the pattern is, it's linked to a quest for a sacred secret and a secret science. This might well be the prize.